What's up, homies and homiettes? It's your boy Hoom Boom back with another segment of the Hold Up Show. And hold up, exposed or justified? Today we're going to be reviewing a clip of President Trump going head to head with Maine Governor Janet Mills over men participating in girls and women's sports. Let's get into it. Hold up.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Well,
are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Well, there you have it. The friendly exchange between Maine's governor, Janet Mills, and President Trump as he lets her know right then and there, hey, are you going to comply with the executive order that we no longer are allowing anybody who identifies as a woman or a girl that is not biologically a woman or a girl participating in women and girl sports? And she said she'll see him in court. And he let her know right then and there that no funding will be going to the state of Maine federally until you comply and have a good life and good luck in politics after that. These are the type of exchanges that make Donald Trump the president of the people. Regardless if you like his approach or not, these are the exchanges that the American people, public voters, people who want justification for the things that other political people do. We want those exchanges right then and there. We don't want the fluff. We don't want the halfway reporting of what actually went down, the word salad. We like to see that exchange because it lets us know and identify who we're dealing with. And now I hope the people of Maine have identified that they voted or elected an official who does not mind men playing in girls and women's sports. So I also like to get into a Newsweek article about the situation because I just like the way Newsweek breaks it down. So let's get into that. So this Newsweek article says, Governor tells Donald Trump to his face she's taking him to court. Maine Governor Janet Mills, a Democrat, told President Donald Trump on Friday that she would see him in court after he criticized her for defying his executive order regarding transgender athletes competing in girls and women's sports. Mills was responding to Trump's threat to withhold federal funding from the Pine Tree State as he addressed a room full of governors at the White House. The U.S. Department of Education later said it had opened an investigation into Maine's Department of Education over allegations it was continuing to allow male athletes to compete in girls' interscholastic athletics, and it has denied female athletes female-only intimate facilities, thereby violating federal anti-discrimination laws. So, why does this matter? The public clash between Mills and the president comes as the Trump administration has made it clear that it wants all state and local leaders to comply with executive orders signed by the president in his first month in office. The administration is already suing Illinois, the city of Chicago, and New York State over sanctuary laws, which it sees as defying the president's wishes and federal law. What to know? Trump's executive order, one of the several signed within the first few days back in the Oval Office, sought to ban transgender women from competing in women's and girls' sports with the argument that those athletes were biological men. The order issues Title IX to back its reasoning, a civil rights law enacted in 1972 to prohibit sex-based discrimination in schools or education programs receiving federal funding. The dispute was directly linked to a threat on Thursday where the president told Republican governors he could withhold education funding for Maine if it didn't comply. What did Janet Mills say to President Trump? Trump asked Mills, who was previously said Maine would not bar transgender groups from competing in categories matching their gender identity, whether she would comply with the order. She responded that she was complying with the state and federal law. Maine has an anti-discrimination law which prevents organizations enacting a ban like the one Trump ordered. We are the federal law, Trump said. Well, you better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it is somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. Mills simply replied, "See you in court." Trump then said, "Good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one." Who is Janet Mills? Mills has been governor of Maine since 2019 and is serving her second term. She was the first woman in the state elected to the office. She previously served 2 terms as the state's first woman attorney general from 2009 to 2011 and then again from 2013 to 2019. At the White House on Friday, Trump told Mills he hoped she would enjoy her life after being governor because he did not think she would be reelected. The Democrat could not seek another term anyway, as the post is term limited and she will leave office in 2026. How are transgender athletes impacted by Trump's executive order? The order allows federal agencies to withhold funding from organizations that do not comply with Title IX as interpreted by the Trump administration, which defines sex as the gender assigned at birth. The inclusion of transgender athletes in women's sports has faced increasing criticism from conservative groups who say it creates an unfair competitive advantage and raises safety concerns. The issue became a central talking point in Trump's presidential campaign last year, despite transgender athletes making up a small minority in college sports. While the order focuses on prohibiting transgender women from participating in women's sports, it does not cite transgender men who would participate in men's sports and are presumably not affected by the mandate. Following the order, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, updated its policies to say that only those declared female at birth could participate in women's sports. It meant transgender people previously allowed to compete as female athletes were now prohibited from doing so. On Monday, a transgender athlete won a pole vaulting competition in Maine, sparking controversy in part because she had competed in the male category 2 years ago. What is the Department of Justice investigating? Department of Education investigating, I'm sorry. Last Friday, the Federal Department of Education Office for Civil Rights announced an investigation into Maine's Education Department over the alleged breach of Title IX. It is also including the Maine School Administrative District number 51 in its probe following Monday's competition. In its announcement, the Department of Education said state law does not override federal law, rendering Maine's anti-discrimination rules defunct under Trump's new ban. A letter was sent to Maine's Department of Education Commissioner Pender Macon announcing the investigation Friday afternoon. What people are saying. Governor Janet Mills in a statement on Friday, if the president attempts to unilaterally deprive Maine school children of the benefit of federal funding, my administration and the Attorney General will take all appropriate and necessary legal actions to restore that funding and the academic opportunity it provides. The state of Maine will not be intimidated by the president's threats. Boy, this one's an airhead. Senator Susan Collins, a Maine Republican, in a statement to News Center Maine, I oppose the president's attempt to curtail funding for Maine and will advocate vigorously for our fair share of the federal funding for Maine schools. And again, I believe that we must treat transgender people with respect and dignity, but it is important for state officials to remember not only the success that has resulted from Title IX, but the original intent behind that landmark law. So that was very on the fence statement, like she was trying to stick up for her state while also try to stand with what Trump said, without saying that you're standing. And you are a Republican, Susan Collins, so good luck to you too, sister. Craig Traynor, acting assistant secretary for civil rights at the Department of Education, in a press release said, "Let me be clear, if Maine wants to continue to receive federal funding from the education department, it has to follow Title IX. If it wants to forego federal funds and continue to trample the rights of its young female athletes, that too is its choice. The OCR will do everything in its power to ensure taxpayers are not funding blatant civil rights violators." That was pretty clear cut. So what happens next? The U.S. Department of Education has begun challenging local and state organizations seen to be ignoring Trump's order, including California and Minnesota. It was not immediately clear which side would bring a lawsuit over the dispute in Maine. So yeah. So it goes back to, is this Governor Janet Mills justified in her stance of why she feels as though she should continue to defy the order of not allowing biological males at birth play in girls and women's athletic sports, right? So you be the judge. You have the evidence. You've seen what both sides had to say. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Is she being exposed as a liberal nut job, or is she justified in her stance of sticking up for her voters and people who support her in her state? You be the judge. It's your boy Hoon Boom, and I'm out. Peace.